Give the gift of a delicious burger from Bulldog Burger, a soup and sandwich from Sweet Pepper's Deli, appetizers and cocktails from The Grill, or even a wood-fired steak from Harvey's. Choice is the perfect gift. An all-in-one gift card from Eat With Us.
Mississippi's trusted weather experts. This is Mississippi Live Weather at 5.
Well, hello there. Chief Meteorologist Matt Lopon live here from Tupelo for Mississippi Live Weather at 5 on the North Half Finals. Again, a lot of schools around the region in play this evening for what is going to be a very active night of football. Luckily, not an active night for weather, but you got to stay bundled up. Let's talk about our headlines this evening here as we get things rolling at 5. Chilly for, again, these North Half Finals this evening. We expect that the rain will return as we head toward this upcoming weekend, and we are looking at some long-lasting cold ahead. So it's not just tonight. In some form or fashion, a good chunk of the next week, keeping those temperatures well below normal as we look into the first part here of the new month of December, which of course is just right around the corner. We're 47 degrees this evening. Feels like 47 because thankfully you look at that wind. That wind is calm, and that means that wind chill temperature is fairly calm as well at this time. Low humidity, obviously one of the things helping those temperatures to continue dropping out in and around the region. Again, Oxford and Tupelo is our Mississippi Live game of the week here. We're 47 degrees in Tupelo. It's 46 in Amory. Columbus coming in around 50 degrees, 46 there in Starkville, 54 for Belzona, coming 52 Cleveland, about 52 there in Clarksdale. You look at the wind chill, there is a little bit of one showing up there for locations back toward Red Bay, 43 Iuka, and 46 there in Hamilton. By the way, Caleb, your mic is on, so I can kind of hear some things in the background there, just so you're aware. So keeping, again, conditions clear into this evening, and that's what's going to have those temperatures dropping fairly readily as we go into this evening. 37, you can see by 9 p.m. there, 35 as we look toward midnight. And that does mean by the conclusion of a lot of these games, we need to make sure that obviously we are bundled up well enough. I have the gloves on here helping out, and certainly you'll probably need that as well, and certainly one of the heavier jackets necessity this evening. Looking here at high pressure on Mississippi Live Weather Radar, and only a couple of high and thin clouds out there for tonight, likely continuing to stay the case that is the only real impact we'll mainly have this evening as all moisture remains way, way up there in the atmosphere. So again, kind of looking at futurecast, and we might widen this out just a little bit using the mouse there. You'll notice that we have just some clouds going on the increase as we go into this evening there. As high pressure starts to slide away from us, more green starting to move in from the west. That is going to be rain. Rain chances are on the increase as we look into your Saturday. You can see that storm system, warm front well to the north of us. That kind of implies that we're on the warm side of things. We are obviously not, but those showers remain fairly light. We're looking at Saturday morning, tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. There will be some out there, and they definitely increase into and through the day. So again, looking at the next 24 hours at 6 a.m. there, we're going to hold it on this for a second. We're 33 degrees. We're 50 by noontime and coming in around 52 degrees by 3 p.m. under what should be, again, mostly cloudy skies. That 52 riding 8, almost 10 degrees below our normal for this time of year. And while the rain coverage continues to increase through the day, as you can see there, we expect it to remain showers. We do not expect it to become necessarily anything overly heavy or strong as far as storms are concerned. Maybe a rumble or two. Southeast winds bring in more moisture, but that moisture, again, resulting in just the precipitation. We'll talk about accumulations and how much we'll see on rainfall related to this coming up here in a couple of minutes. I reference accumulations. For whatever reason, there's some stuff buzzing out there on social media about the potential for white stuff. Let me just tell you right now, that's not going to happen. We will look ahead at the storm system that will bring us, again, the cooler temperatures and how that precipitation plays out. That's coming up here in 60 seconds as Mississippi Live Weather at 5 continues here from our Mississippi Live Game of the Week presented by Casey Law at Tupelo. It's Oxford and Tupelo, 7A North Half Final. We're looking at that coming up here in a couple of minutes.
When you've been injured, don't settle for a lawyer who doesn't even know where you live. Call Langston and Lott. Local lawyers, personal service, real results.
For decades, I've taught you everything I know. But only you can prevent wildfires.
Even though Gabe grew up in Alabama, Mississippi has now become his home and his family. And one thing about Gabe is he keeps his family safe.
Right now, from the Room to Room Weather Center, here's Mississippi's Chief Meteorologist, Matt Lobhon.
We are live from the Blue Turf here in Tupelo at our Mississippi Live Game of the Week. Of course, it's going to be Oxford and Tupelo for the North Half Final to figure out who plays in the state championship game. A huge matchup this evening. Everybody's been looking forward and obviously talking about it all week long in and around the Tupelo area. And of course, a lot of other finals going on here for North Half this evening. And in all cases, we expect them to be rather chilly. And that should not be a big shock there because, I mean, with the jacket, come on, let's be honest. You've been out and all today. You know that it is not particularly warm, right? Pre-game temperatures, low 40s. That means as warm as it gets going into this evening will be the low 40s, where 38 degrees is looked toward halftime, 36 as we go toward the final snap of these games. I triple dog dare Gabe Maynor to keep those shorts on that he's had all season long. He probably will because it's Gabe. But I hope he doesn't because I don't want him to get sick. Looking at Mississippi Live Weather Radar at this point here at 5:06. We are dry. We are clear across the region. That's no shock. These clouds you see behind me, high and thin, made up of ice crystals way up high in the atmosphere and obviously not getting anywhere near the surface. Holding on temperatures here for a second. We're 51 right now in Clarksdale, 51 degrees in Cleveland. It's 46 in Starkville. Of course, Egg Bowl earlier on today. Congrats to the folks there at Ole Miss for winning that. Of course, Mississippi State doing a great job putting up a good effort there through the first 3 quarters of the game. Obviously, it did not end the way those state fans wanted it to. Our Gabe Maynor actually was at the game today. That's the reason you haven't seen him so far. He'll be back to help us out with highlights this evening here from our Game of the Week coming up here in a little bit. 50 right now in Columbus and 46 degrees in Amory. As we check out those wind chill temperatures, this is probably one of the big stories as well. There's luckily not much wind, and so that means the wind chill isn't a huge factor out there. Coming 45 for that temperature in Tupelo, 43 in Red Bay and Iuka, 48 up there at South Haven, and Senatobia about 49 degrees for what at least it feels like. So pretty close to actual temperatures there. So as that high pressure center settles off to the east and winds remain fairly calm, the temperature you see is the temperature you get. So we're 40 at 7 p.m. at the kickoff again of some of these games. We're looking at around 36 degrees by the conclusion, light winds, the cloud cover thickening up. But as you can see behind me there, well, that shows completely mostly cloudy skies. It's those high, thin clouds as opposed to the low sort of clouds. That means not much insulation. So look at these temperatures overnight. As a result, they do continue dropping there back to around 35 by 1:30 in the morning and back into the low 30s by early morning on your Saturday as we remain mostly dry, again, to begin your day. You see the little bits of green showing up there. That is, again, mostly moisture that probably evaporates before it gets to the surface. More on that here in a second. So low temperatures on your Saturday. We typically should be pretty close to this for this time of year. Low 30s out there. So we're looking at about 33 degrees in Tupelo and Amory, about 38 in Clarksdale, 40 milder than we've been the last couple days in Greenville. Again, the clouds on the increase there, that holds the temperatures up, a little more insulation there. But notice the difference there. 30 in Hamilton, Alabama versus the 40 back toward the west. That contrast there is because of the moisture or lack thereof to the east. And wind chills, we're coming about 26 there for what it'll feel like tomorrow morning in Hamilton, about 28 in Tupelo, Amory, and 29 degrees in Houston. Okay, let's progress throughout your Saturday here looking at Futurecast, our HRRR model, fairly widespread light showers. Now, this I don't want to imply means that we're going to be all getting wet. That's probably not the case. This is all pretty light stuff, and some of this evaporates before it gets to the surface. As we go through your Saturday here, notice how that rainfall becomes, again, still fairly spotty through noontime. A lot of us still dry. So meaningful rainfall amounts out of this during the day tomorrow. Until we get to maybe 3, 4 o'clock in the afternoon, this might be a couple hundredths of an inch. That might be about it. But as we go toward around afternoon, you can see a few little bits of orange starting to show in. That's why an occasional rumble, like what we have north of Greenwood there, north of Greenville, a possibility. But in general, most of these showers remain very light to maybe at most moderate rainfall. Highs for tomorrow don't budge much from where they were for today, and obviously it'll be a lot more cloudy, a lot more rainy. Coming in 54, that temperature in Iuka, about 50 degrees in Red Bay, 51 for Hamilton, Alabama. We're 55 in Grenada, about 55 degrees in Eupora, as well as Starkville. And again, normal this time of year should be around 60, so running well above that. Okay, we do have one more SEC football game in the regular season there. It's Alabama versus Auburn. Obviously, the Iron Bowl. Everyone looks forward to that. We'll see how the game goes itself. Certainly, Alabama has the edge at this point here, but you know how that's another one of those, much like the Egg Bowl, that sometimes doesn't always go the way that the records say it should. We do know the forecast will be cool, not quite as chilly as the football games this evening are, but we expect it to stay dry. So looking, again, talking about the moisture there, and we do have our next front kind of arriving as we head toward tomorrow evening. Ahead of that, again, the showers remain relatively light, maybe some rumbles right at the front itself as it progresses through, with, again, at least scattered showers overnight in the first part of Sunday morning. You could see by 6, 7 o'clock in the morning, some of those heavier showers showing up there closer to Hamilton, Alabama, back toward around West Point, and then mainly lighter sprinkles beyond that. So I do think that means most of your Sunday probably ends up dry, even though we'll have the clouds. And then we stop things at noontime here for a second. Notice how those temperatures, mid-40s, and wind chill factors even into the afternoon, low 40s out there. So Sunday is a day that does not ever feel like it warms up. It will feel chilly completely through the entire day there. So looking at a couple things related to that. First off, again, temperature is still probably holding on to around 38 for the actual temperature and at the freezing point for what it feels like. But rainfall amounts not going to be excessive out of this. Again, as mentioned, it takes till late Saturday before we start to see more meaningful rainfall, and then pre-dawn Sunday morning. A few spots there where you see greens on the map, that's where we approach near a half inch in the rain bucket, such as out there toward Cleveland, up toward around Senatobia at about a half inch or so, back toward Tunica as well. But you get east there towards, say, Columbus or Starkville, I mean, maybe a tenth of an inch. You can see that certainly rainfall amounts back to the west are much more likely to have some significance, and even then, a lot of us, it's pretty light stuff as far as that is concerned. Enough to be a nuisance there. This is the big story. We're going to hold it here for a second. Look at this contrast. We're early in the morning there, pre-dawn Sunday morning. This is the real impact of this front. Obviously, we have some showers ahead of it, but look at this contrast there from the wind chills going 54 there at 3 o'clock in the morning. Again, no one's going to be up, but I want you to see the contrast in Eupora versus about 31 in Water Valley. So that's the huge drop. I mean, you can just see it wipe in those cooler temperatures there. And look what this does by early morning on your Sunday time. If you're going out to early church by 6 a.m. Sunday morning, we're looking at some teens out there for wind chill. Senatobia, Tunica, Holly Springs, probably up around Ashland and maybe Ripley in the teens for wind chill temperatures at 6 a.m. We're 31 Tupelo and 35 degrees there in Columbus. Note as we go through the morning, though, that by noontime, it doesn't really increase much. I mean, yeah, we're about 10 degrees warmer for what it'll feel like in Holly Springs or Senatobia in the northwest portion of the state, but most of us are just about as cool feeling with the wind chills at noontime. And as we go toward the afternoon, it's kind of a similar story. Notice we might briefly hit where the wind chills around 40, but it ultimately is going to be chilly all the way through the day and into your Sunday evening. And that sets the stage for another chilly day to begin Monday as kids head back to school after their Thanksgiving break. Notice it is teens for wind chill temperatures there in Boonville, back towards Senatobia, out in the Delta for Cleveland and Clarksdale. So it is going to be a chilly day to begin your Monday. As we go through the day, we don't expect that to warm up a whole lot. By noontime, we're upper 30s, maybe low 40s, so will it be warmer than tomorrow, or at least, feel warmer than Saturday did? Yeah, and Sunday, yes. But it'll feel warmer than Sunday did, but it's not going to be particularly warm in the afternoon either, as you can see those wind chill temperatures finally calming down and the winds calm down somewhat more then. Now, we are also watching a chance for some moisture moving in with that, and we'll talk more about that system here in a minute, but obviously chilly temperatures again for next Tuesday morning as well. Your Saturday, though, hour-by-hour forecast has us 34 degrees at 7 a.m. We're 50 by noontime, low 50s into the evening, with rain chances kind of holding those temperatures up. Notice we're still 46 at 10 p.m. tomorrow, and that is that moisture kind of limiting the fall in temperatures. As we look at that 7-day forecast there, note by Sunday that while we start off around 37, we're only 47 by the afternoon, and it never feels that warm. It probably doesn't feel above the 40-degree point most spots by Sunday afternoon. A really chilly feeling day with wind chills kind of reaching their basement number by Monday in the teens actual temperatures in the 20s. Now, Monday, we have some rain chances to do increase later on into the day, into the first part of early Tuesday morning. We're 45 for that high temperature Monday. We're 33 for early Tuesday morning. I know that there's some jibber jabber that from time to time is kind of circulated on social media. Hey, are we talking about wintry stuff? We are not. Out of this, at one point looked like maybe a rogue flake. And I would say in northwest Mississippi, that still remains a possibility that we could have some flakes out that way. But I think that's the exception to the rule. Most of us will not. We are 33 again above the freezing point for most locations early Tuesday morning. If you're lucky enough to see a flake, it would be C, not experience, actually do anything. Everybody's going to school, I guess, Tuesday. I should clarify very clearly there. 44 Tuesday afternoon, and then low 50s on the way for Wednesday. Again, more cool air behind this and kind of staying in charge even in the next week with rain chances, maybe some rumbles late next week. But again, 60 is where we should be for our normal temperature this time of year. And Caleb, that's one of the things looking in that extended forecast that we just don't see really anytime soon, both low temperatures and high temperatures as we go into this first full week of December. I guess it'd technically be first partial week of December. Either way, it is not going to be an overall warm forecast, and certainly kind of mimicking what we have out here for our game of the week. Again, our Mississippi Live game of the week presented by KC Lot here at Tupelo. It's Tupelo and Oxford. Again, some of the folks here getting out and getting ready, warming up as, you know, as relative as you're able to do with this. But certainly warmed up in the studio is our Will Kohlmeyer breaking down the action here. Again, between now and the 6 o'clock show, we do have 6 teams here in North Mississippi in North Half Finals. Here's our Will Kohlmeyer.
Thanks and happy Thanksgiving to all of you. A special Thanksgiving edition of Kohlmeyer's Corner. Matt had asked me to throw out a few Egg Bowl memories, and of course I had the fortunate to be covering 22 of them at the TV station. Also covered a couple more for Fox Sports Radio. So I've got quite a few under my belt, and I'll tell you what, before I even talk about a memory of Egg Bowl or two, I found out really quickly when I first moved down here from Madison, Wisconsin, how important this game was. I was here for about 3 months, and I got home after a 10 o'clock sportscast, and in between the 7 and the 8 on my apartment door was a hunting knife, a string attached to a message that basically said, you better keep it fair if you want to survive, if you will, down here in North Mississippi. So obviously that rattled my cage. And I always said for all those years is that I was born and raised in Madison, Wisconsin. I'm a Badger fan, and I wanted both teams to win. So when I talk about an Egg Bowl, the coaches understood it, the athletic department officials understood it, but evidently some of the fans did not. Got stuff thrown at me at both places, both at Vaught Hemingway Stadium and at Scott Field. And I covered some real classics. Of course, I'm all about an atmosphere. And the Egg Bowl was always going to be electric. Even my first ever Egg Bowl down in Jackson in 1983. Of course, I'm used to Wisconsin weather, and I couldn't believe that it was going to be this warm for an Egg Bowl. In fact, had tornado warnings in the area, which really blew it away from me because up in Wisconsin, growing up, there weren't a whole lot of tornadoes. So that was a memory in itself. And that Artie Cosby field goal attempt that looked like it was splitting the sticks. The wind comes up, Gus blows it down, Ole Miss wins, they go to a bowl game, and it just set the tone for all these Egg Bowls that I covered. I remember one year, I can't remember the year, what was it, when they had the fight before the game down there in Jackson at Veterans Memorial Stadium. Of course, through the years, I loved it when they switched it back to campuses, right? So it was, they switched back and forth, and there were classics at both those places. Thoroughly enjoyed those. And so when it comes to tomorrow's game, man, there's a lot on the line, isn't there? I mean, you've got Mississippi State, if they can pull off the upset, they'll go bowling. And for Ole Miss, they just have to get through this one tomorrow, get the win, and they're on their way to the playoffs. Even if they lose, I think they're probably in the playoffs, but you don't want to put that to any risk or any question marks. So much on the line. It's hard to pick one. I mean, because it usually is the team that has the most to gain doesn't always win, do they? So I'm thinking that maybe there might be an upset, but I just got to go with the way Ole Miss is playing, and they are playing. Yes, there's a lot of noise that they're having to shove off with their head coach, Lane Kiffin, but I think it's just enough firepower for Ole Miss to come away with the win. And then, of course, on Saturday, we're going to have the Iron Bowl, so Alabama's version of the Egg Bowl. And this one should be interesting as well. If it was at Alabama, I wouldn't think there would be much question. At Auburn, you just never know. I think Alabama will win that one. Also, of course, on Saturday, a big story will be that Lane Kiffin news conference, right, to decide or for him to announce if he's staying at Ole Miss or if he's leaving for one of the other two jobs. But that's the story now. Don't forget tomorrow night at 5 and 6, I'll be back here to talk high school football. There are some magical matchups for tomorrow night. And of course, a week from now, we'll be down there at Scott Field, Davis Wade Stadium, if you will, for the state high school football championships. But that's football, high school level. That's tomorrow. Enjoy the rest of your Thanksgiving, folks. And hopefully your team will take care of business tomorrow in the Egg Bowl. Thanks and happy Thanksgiving to all of you.
Okay, so sorry about that. We had yesterday's Thanksgiving one queued up there as well. So back here again, live in Tupelo at our game of the week. Okay, now we're going to give you Cole Meyer's preview that he told you he'd have today, right now. So we're going to pull it up for you.
Welcome to Cole Meyer's Corner. Of course, it's a Friday night. It's 5 o'clock, and you know the drill. Every week this football season at 5 o'clock, I've taken a look at high school football matchups, and at 6, we concentrate on college football. Well, here's the scoop for today. Since we've got 6 high school football North Half final matchups involving teams in our viewing area, we're going to take a look at 3 at 5 o'clock, another 3 at 6 o'clock. So we're going to have all the bases covered for you. Of course, the one that we won't have is in 6A, but that's Ridgeland against Warren Central out of Vicksburg, and both those teams out of our viewing area. So we will start with our game of the week. And just across town, Oxford at Tupelo. My goodness, this one has the makings of an instant classic, folks. During the regular season, that only loss by Oxford was to Tupelo. Oxford's offense that averages 5 touchdowns a game. Actually, both these teams average 5 TDs per game offensively. They were held to only 13 points. Tupelo won a hard-fought game in Oxford, 20-13. Knox Kiffin, the quarterback now for Oxford High School. He's had a nice season. He's thrown for more than 1,400 yards and 12 touchdowns. You see what he did last week in the North Half semis. Over 200 yards passing and a touchdown. He also ran for a touchdown. He averaged 9 yards a carry. And when you talk about quarterbacks, how about the job that Ty Harden has been able to get out of Braylon Williams? In the 5 games that he has been back on the team, you can see what he's done. Right at 250 yards passing. That's okay. 4 touchdown passes, nothing wrong with that. But running the ball is where he's explosive. I mean, he's extraordinary with 10 touchdowns in 5 games, almost 600 yards rushing. And Tupelo takes advantage of their opportunities in the red zone. I thought this was a stat that I wanted to show you guys here tonight. 82% when they're in the red zone, they're going to score. And those 34 scores, 33 have been touchdowns, just 1 field goal. So Tupelo, when they get in the red zone, when they get those opportunities, they definitely take advantage of them. So we go from 7A and then we go down Highway 45 to West Point. West Point definitely used to playing in North Half finals. In fact, they're used to playing in state championships and winning state titles. They won more than anybody else. And this is a rematch of last year's state playoffs. Holmes County played at West Point, and the Jaguars almost upset the Green Wave. West Point won that game 31-28. That was a year ago. Of course, West Point went on to win a state title. We talk about that Holmes County offense a lot, and it is explosive. But I'm going to give some love to Terrell Johnson, one of the defensive standouts. 17 tackles last week. A couple of those were behind the line of scrimmage. He had a fumble recovery, and he broke up a pass. And then running the ball, Rashad Campbell was very good last week. Averaged over 11 yards a carry, 3 touchdowns, even caught a couple passes for Holmes County. And for West Point, nothing's ever fancy offensively, right? They just keep it on the ground. And last week in their win against Pontotoc, which was our game of the week, Quentin Thompson had a nice game. 166 yards rushing and 2 touchdowns on just 7 carries. And defensively, D. Houghton had 5 tackles. 3 of those were behind the line, and one of those was a sack. And then finally, we go to Winston County, Kosciuszko at Louisville. Remember when I previewed this regular season matchup, I told you, I said these two would face each other again in the postseason. And sure enough, this is a lot on the line. The winner goes to Davis Wade Stadium next week to play for a state title. Louisville, by the way, had to rally in that regular season game to win 29-24 over the Whippets. Now, when you take a look at Kosciuszko, they've got a terrific quarterback, but their running back sometimes flies under the radar. And you can see what C.J. Sandefur did last week in their win. Those are some really nice numbers. $169 on the ground and a touchdown. This year, Sandefur has rushed for over 1,300 yards and 17 touchdowns. So he could be a key tonight for Kosciuszko. And this is a Kosciuszko defense that only allows a touchdown a game. So that could be a part of the equation as well. And when you talk about Louisville, they've got an outstanding running back as well. Zayden Jernigan, he had a wonderful game last week. He also almost the same numbers as Sandefur. Both had one rushing touchdowns. And how about the efficiency of Tristan Edwards, the quarterback for Louisville? Just incredibly efficient last week. 20 of 25 through the air for $195 and a couple touchdowns. He's had over 2,300 yards passing this year, and he tosses. So those are the matchups that we're going to highlight at 5 o'clock. Don't forget, come back at 6 o'clock where I'll preview the 1A, 2A, and 3A matchups. But for now, that's the story here in the studio.
Well, big thanks to our Will for giving us that good insight to those game of the weeks and pretty much matchups occurring across North Mississippi. Of course, like he mentioned, come back to 6 so we can cover the 1A, 2A, and 3A so you can know everything going on in North Mississippi tonight for our Friday night football action. But behind me, we have that Tupelo sky cam showing these beautiful somewhat clear conditions, those high, thin, wispy clouds up top, but not interfering with any high school football games we have going on for the rest of the night, so we get to enjoy it with these chilly conditions. But of course, here's the QR code. That way you can stay updated whether you are at high school football games, traveling out of town. This app will make sure to keep you updated, especially with these cool, chilly conditions on their way once we start talking about freezes and everything we need to know getting closer and closer towards the Christmas season. Now that Thanksgiving is finally officially over, but we will be live later on tonight at 6 and 10, of course, giving you the very latest on that conditions, tracking closer towards the Mississippi Live Weather Game of the Week kickoff. And of course, we'll have our highlights during the 10 o'clock and your band and cheer squad as well. So definitely going to be a fun night here. Going to be action-packed broadcast. Cannot wait to spend them here with y'all. So I hope y'all can tune in later. But until then, continue to enjoy y'all's evening. Continue to enjoy y'all's Thanksgiving break. Stay warm, and we'll see y'all back here in the Room to Room Weather Center at 6 and 10.
By the time you see the symptoms of lung cancer, it could be too late. Now there's a new scan that can detect lung cancer early. If you smoked, get scanned.
You're not gonna get it all right. Just make sure you nail the big stuff.
Mama!
Like making sure your kids are in size. Get it right at nhtsa.gov/therightseat.